Welcome back to IGN Live at Comic-Con. Since the early 80s, these scary stories to tell in the dark books have terrified entire generations of school children, myself included. And now they're coming to the big screen. Please welcome two men who know a thing or two about making horror movies, director Ovredal and producer Guillermo del Toro. Hi, guys.
Hey, hey.
And Max. Max is a big fan of the books, too. He's also here.
It's one crocodile.
Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark looks terrifying. I'm trying to figure out who this movie is for, because there are a lot of kids in it, but the subject matter and source material is dark and bleak and terrifying. It could get violent and bloody. Where is this sort of landing ratings-wise? Like, what kind of film are you making?
It's PG-13, number one, and the other thing that is important is we're trying to capture the same audience than the books. I mean, these books have now entertained 3 generations. A lot of the fathers know that the stories are campfire stories, basically. They have a factor of fun, and they are ultimately, none of them are gory. They're all creepy, they all have a humor slant or very human. So, you know, we're trying to cultivate the same PG-13, but spooky and fun.
I personally think that a woman who has a boil on her face that bursts into hundreds of spiders is gory.
Well, it's called Saturday. Happens every Saturday, man. No, but you know, it depends. It depends on how you film it. What is the spirit behind it? I mean, I've done hard R. I've done big sci-fi movies, big action. I've done Troll Hunters, which has a very good heart. And I think Andre did a tremendous job at landing this movie exactly tonally in the fun but scary and creepy.
Now, Andre, the Stephen Gammell illustrations from the books are iconic and haunting and terrifying, but they're also like ink splatters and kind of all over the place. What were the challenges of bringing those into the flesh, so to speak?
I mean, it was it was great fun bringing these characters into life, making them come alive, because you have to make them into 3-dimensional, living, breathing characters, and the audience has only seen the drawing of what it's supposed to look like. They have never heard them, they've never seen them move, they've never all these things. So we had to play with all that stuff as we were making the movie.
There they are. Here, now you have to see them
That's
too.
a Gammell. But the thing with Gammell is,
God,
like, that is a character we reproduce in the movie, and we really gave it to the best sculptors and creators of monsters. I've been doing monsters for more than a quarter of a century.
Yep.
And I know who can execute this character, the woman in the dream, you know. And we did it to be exactly like the book. We also made them in the color palette. They're very desaturated. They're very much almost black and white.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Was there ever sort of a notion of making the entire film look like that, or?
No, because I think that we wanted to portray an era. I mean, the movie is in the 1960s, but we wanted also to make it about today. The movie is about how the things we tell about each other become real, which can be social media, completely relevant about the way kids understand telling stories, or it can be about telling spooky stories. So thematically, I wanted the movie to work for the past and the present.
Did you guys have personal favorites, like individual scary stories growing up? We saw for a second there there's basically a rat dog.
The Mexican pet is called.
Yeah, it's a father who brings a dog home to his kid, and they're like, this is a weird dog. And then by the end, they're like, it's actually a giant Mexican rat. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for reading. And I was like 10.
Yeah.
It's like, why did you do this to me? Do you guys have a favorite?
I have a favorite that is not in the movie, because it's not actually quite a horror story. It's called The Window. And it's very much about human nature. 2 guys in a hospital, one supposedly gets the window and tells everything that's wonderful that he sees every day to the other one, and the other one grows jealous and hates him. And then he finally gets the bed, and he realizes there's only a brick wall in front of the window. Everything was the imagination of the other guy. I like it a lot.
I think that was lost on me at a young age. But that's harrowing as an adult.
That might be the darkest.
That's just
story.
warped.
You?
I think Harold is such a great story.
Yep.
I always loved Harold. Yeah, so I'm very happy to have it in the movie.
Harold is the scarecrow who is very almost fleshy and humanesque in this in your interpretation here, and he is bullied and beaten up by locals, and they dump beer on him. Here now, those guys are
He
sort
has
of
a baseball bat treatment.
yeah.
More of a pinata there.
Yeah, and the story in the book, it's old, so I don't care if I'm spoiling it.
No, don't spoil it.
Don't spoil it? Okay, I will not spoil it. But Harold does,
He gets his day.
he gets his day. There, that's the best way of putting it, yeah. Those are two really great picks. The window one especially is just like, damn, man, why?
Can you tell us a little bit about having this cast of characters to sort of help sort of stitch these stories together? Because they're not just standalone.
No, we knew we didn't want an anthology, because in anthology films, you're always as good as your best story, yes, but as bad as your most weak. And we wanted to find a device, which in this case is a book. In the Pan's Labyrinth, I had a book that was called the Book of Crossroads that wrote itself to whoever it opened it. And I thought we can use that idea and have the book tell you the story that you're most afraid of. So the group of characters opens the book, and each of them finds a different story.
Wow. Was there ever sort of the idea of bringing in other monsters from the universes you guys have created? I mean, this is basically any page in this book could hypothetically have another creature in it. And there we saw the Spider Woman, by the way.
Yes. Well, Andrew created, I think, one of the most effective horror movies in the last decade. You know, The Autopsy of Jane Doe. I think he's a very elegant but really spooky filmmaker. I would have been happy to bring any of them.
Why are children so fun to scare?
Because they believe.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that magic gets lost on adults.
Well, we start believing in the taxman, and we start believing
We have real monsters.
instead of the boogeyman, we believe in the taxman.
That's right.
You know, you believe in other much more silly things, I think.
Like Comcast, stuff like that.
The stock market.
Microtransactions. Yeah,
The
there's
stock market is the biggest tale somebody concocted to terrify millions.
scary stories to tell in the stocks. Yes.
Oh God.
Yes.
Terrifying.
Healthcare. Yes.
Now you guys have had a lot of other monsters in your other films. Which of sort of the rogues gallery of creatures would fit best in this universe?
I don't know. I mean, there could be space for a troll, obviously, from my first movie, but I think you have a bunch more.
The pale man from Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah.
would be-
Ooh, that's another thing that scared me a lot as an adult.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
Can you talk a little bit about we talked about sort of scaring kids, but sort of as a narrative device of having, children in a horror movie?
Well, it's extremely easy. In fact, if you go back and watch the classics of Disney, they are so scary. And it's because I believe the horror tale evolved from the fairy tale. They were one and the same. If you think about, Hansel and Gretel, it's a cannibalistic woman.
Yeah.
That's trying to lure kids into their house to put them in the oven and eat them. That's not exactly like yay material, right?
Yeah, it's like a melting candy house in the middle of the woods where
Yes.
a witch kills children. You're like, thanks for reading me that.
And he's gonna eat them.
Yeah.
And the parents abandon them in the woods because they cannot feed them. It's not exactly the merriest. There are so many elements in fairy tales that are common, and I think both tales are rites of passage. And I think that you identify with them, because the only thing I can assure you is everybody has been a kid.
That's true.
That's one of the most common experiences we have.
Well, guys, thank you so much. I can't wait to see the movie. You can be a kid pooping your pants in the dark. When Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark hits theaters August 9th. And in the meantime, there's lots more Comic-Con coverage to watch in broad daylight coming up right after this. Thank you,
Bravo!
guys.